A federal court once ruled that millions of Americans were owed a cash refund on a pop album, because the two men smiling on the cover had never sung a single note on it. Their names were Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan. Together they were Milli Vanilli, and for about 18 months, they were the biggest new act on the planet. 3 number-one singles, 6 million albums sold in the United States alone, and in February 1990, the Grammy for Best New Artist lifted over their heads while the whole room rose to its feet. 8 months later, that same public would be filling out claim forms to get its money back. This is a con almost everyone remembers, and almost no one remembers correctly. Because the two faces the country turned on were never the men who built the lie. It began in Germany, in a studio run by a producer named Frank Farian. Farian was not a beginner. He had already manufactured one global hit machine, the group Boney M, and he understood a secret the record business rarely says out loud. The voice and the face do not have to belong to the same person. By the late 1980s he had a track he was sure would be a hit. He called it "Girl You Know It's True." What he did not have was anyone the camera would fall in love with. The actual singing was done by session vocalists, men named Charles Shaw, John Davis, and Brad Howell. Their voices were real. Their faces, Farian decided, would not sell magazines or fill arenas. So he went looking, not for a singer, but for a look. He found it in 2 young dancers working the clubs of Munich, Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan. They were beautiful, athletic, magnetic, and broke. Farian offered them an arrangement that court filings and their own later interviews described the same way. They would front the record. They would dance, they would model, they would mouth the words in the videos and on the stage. They would not sing a note of it. And they signed. Here is the first thing this case quietly exposes about us. We do not want to believe that beauty and talent are two separate things. We want the gorgeous face to also own the gifted voice. It feels almost like a betrayal when they come apart. Farian understood that hunger better than any of the fans did. He sold people exactly the fantasy they were already dreaming of. And they bought 6 million copies of it without ever asking to see the receipt. And it truly did feel like magic while it lasted. Teenagers taped their posters to bedroom walls. The videos ran in constant rotation. Rob and Fab, with their braids and their spandex and their acrobatic dance moves, became the very picture of what a pop star in 1989 was supposed to be. They believed it too, in their way, living the fame, signing the autographs, standing in the lights. The strange cruelty of it is that the two men at the center were, in a sense, also fans of a group that did not really exist. For a while, it worked flawlessly. The look and the sound fused in the public's mind into one irresistible thing. Then, on a summer stage in Connecticut, the tape jumped. It was July 1989. A concert being taped for MTV in Bristol, Connecticut. Milli Vanilli were out in front of a live crowd performing "Girl You Know It's True" when the backing track stuck. The recorded vocal began to skip, the same fragment of a line firing over and over into the night. Girl you know it's, girl you know it's, girl you know it's. Rob Pilatus stood frozen for a moment, then turned and ran off the stage. And here is the part almost everyone forgets. It did not end them. The crowd kept dancing. The records kept selling. The Grammy still arrived, months later, with the skip already public knowledge. A glitch that should have detonated the entire act was simply shrugged off, because the audience was not ready to surrender the fantasy yet. People will forgive an obvious crack in a lie for a long time, as long as the lie is still handing them what they came for. Denial is not stupidity. It is a choice to keep feeling good. What finally ended it was not the fans, and not a reporter. It was Farian himself. In November 1990, in a room full of journalists, the man who had built the illusion took it apart with his own hands. He admitted that Rob and Fab had never sung on the records. Not one track. Reportedly, he confessed because the two men had begun demanding to actually sing on the follow-up album, and he refused to let them. The collapse was instant. Days later, the Recording Academy took back the Grammy, the first time in the history of the award that one had ever been returned. The most coveted trophy in music, revoked and erased from the books. Arista Records dropped the act and pulled the album from its own catalog, as if it could make the whole thing vanish. And watch, again, who the public aimed its fury at. Not Frank Farian, the man who designed the deception, controlled every contract, and pocketed the largest share. The rage went straight past him to the two faces on the cover, the hired dancers who had held the least power in the entire operation. It is always easier to hate the face you can see than the hand you cannot. The puppet takes the blame while the one holding the strings walks off quietly. And then the fans did something that had never been done before. They took a pop group to court. Across the United States, buyers began filing lawsuits, not against a bank that had drained their savings, not against a company that had sold them a broken machine, but against a musical act for not really singing. Roughly 24 separate class action suits were filed in cities around the country, and they were eventually consolidated into a single sprawling case. The legal theory was consumer fraud. People had paid, the suits argued, for a performance by Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan, and had received a performance by someone else entirely. In 1991, the defendants, the record company and its distributor, chose to settle rather than fight it out in front of a jury. And the terms were, for their time, astonishing. As reported when the deal was announced, virtually anyone in America who had bought the album, a cassette single, a CD, or even a concert ticket before the confession could file for a refund. A few dollars back on the album with proof of purchase. Money returned on the singles. Partial refunds even on concert tickets. Buyers had to mail in proof to a claims administrator, and the money came from the label, not from Rob or Fab, who saw none of it and owed none of it. It was described as one of the broadest consumer settlements the music industry had ever produced. There is something almost tender and almost brutal in that image, grown adults mailing back the record that had made them dance, demanding their few dollars, as if the joy they had felt for 18 months had been retroactively cancelled. They did not want the songs anymore. They wanted to be on record as having been fooled. Being seen as the victim of a con can feel more important than the money the con actually cost you. Now think carefully about what the court was being asked to put a price on. Not a defective product. The song still played. The beat still hit. The album sounded exactly as good the morning after the confession as it had the morning before. Nothing physical about it had changed. What the buyers wanted refunded was the belief, the idea that the voice they loved belonged to the faces they loved. The record was identical. Only the story behind it had died. That is the strange, revealing center of this entire case. Nothing anyone was holding in their hands got any worse. The music was unchanged, note for note. What collapsed was the meaning people had wrapped around it, and meaning, it turns out, is most of what we think we are ever buying. We do not really pay for the sound. We pay for who we believe is standing behind it. Take that belief away, and a platinum record becomes a thing people line up to return. Farian never faced anything close to what the two dancers did. He had the money, the studio, the next project already forming. The men whose voices actually carried the songs, Charles Shaw, John Davis, Brad Howell, remained mostly nameless to the public, their real work still hiding behind faces that were never theirs. The talent stayed invisible. The image took both the glory and the fall. That is often how it goes. For the two men who never sang, there was no refund and no soft landing. Fab Morvan spent years slowly rebuilding a quieter life out of the wreckage. Rob Pilatus could not find his way back. He spiraled through arrests, through addiction, through an attempted comeback that never took hold. In 1998, on the eve of that comeback, Rob Pilatus was found dead in a hotel room near Frankfurt, an overdose, at 32 years old. The man the public had cast as the villain of the whole affair was, by most honest accounts, the person it damaged the most. So here is the question the record leaves sitting in your lap. When you buy something because of the story attached to it, the name, the face, the myth you were sold, and that story turns out to be false, what exactly were you robbed of? The object in your hands never changed. Only what you told yourself about it did. Milli Vanilli did not really sell you a bad record. They sold you a belief. And when a court was finally forced to put a number on a broken belief, it came out to about the price of the album, and a young man's life that no settlement was ever going to refund. Follow for more.